What's up? Nick Ehrlich here at Sweat Performance, and today's presentation is going to talk about the 10 reasons that you are not ripped yet and how to get out of your own way, right? So for our presentation today, we're going to go over common mistakes with nutrition and exercise. We're going to identify ways that you are sabotaging your own results. We're going to talk about exercise and diet, kind of misnomers and fallacies and misunderstandings and things like that that you're maybe messing up with your own plan. And we're going to help make your workouts and nutrition more effective in burning fat, right? So we're talking about living lean. We're talking about being lean, and we're talking about rebranding our goals, redefining our goals, and kind of reshaping what we want. We talked about weight loss versus fat loss early on, and obviously with the Lean Life Revolution, we're talking about being as lean as possible all the time. And lean is different than thin. Right? Lean and thin are not the same thing. Remember, previously we talked about things like being skinny fat versus being muscular. Lean means a toned, muscular, properly shaped physique where you have low body fat levels and are really strong. Thin is just whatever. You know what I mean? Jared from Subway's thin. Kid Rock's thin. People are thin, but no one looks at their bodies and goes like, oh man, I want that. So when we're talking about a lean body, we're talking about low body fat levels, pronounced musculature, a toned physique, something people look at and go, that's the body that I want. That's what we're talking about, right? And we're gonna talk about what lean really means in that capacity too, all right? Lean means low body fat levels. It means having musculature. It doesn't just mean being indiscriminately thin, all right? And the training and diet implications of living lean are working out intensely, eating intelligently, and planning, okay? So when we talk about getting in our own way, a lot of times we can start out with these previous presentations. We've talked about low carb living. We've talked about redefining goals. We've talked about pre and post workout nutrition. But sometimes we can still get in our own way. We can still overthink things. We can underthink things. We can put the wrong things into action. We can do a lot of stuff that prevents us from being as lean as we want to be. Now, the nice thing about this is that when we get up in the morning and we look in the mirror and we look at ourselves, maybe you look at yourselves in your underwear, maybe getting out of the shower, you can notice when you're not as lean as you want to be. And you can notice when you are not as lean as you were the week before, or maybe the day before, or maybe if you're just seeing that you've been at the same level for so long. When we're not going by the scale, we can really look and see what our results are like. So today we're going to talk about some ways that you're probably getting in your own way. You're probably preventing yourself from being as lean as you want to be, as muscular as you want to be, or to have the results that you want or the body that you want. And we can maybe get that a little more effective. So the first thing we're going to talk about is you're still looking for the right time to start. Okay? You're still looking for the right time to start. You're still looking for the perfect way to start. You're going to spend too much time figuring out when's the best way to start. What's the best time to get on my diet plan? How do I do that the best way? You're gonna think about the perfect time, you know? Oh, I can't start on a Saturday, I gotta start on a Monday. I can't start on a Thursday, I gotta start on Sunday. I don't have all the stuff in my house yet, you know? And you're gonna hold off until dieting, maybe until after the holidays. Maybe you've got a month where you have 4 weddings and you're out of town. Maybe you're starting before Thanksgiving, but you figure like, oh, well, it's pointless till after Christmas and after New Year's. That's not true. That's the first thing you're doing wrong. Right now is the best time to start. It's never too late to start. It's never the wrong time to start. But the important thing is that you get to work. When you put something off until tomorrow, the likelihood that you'll put it off another day is incredibly important, is incredibly likely, I should say. Think about things right now that you need to do with your house, maybe making a doctor's appointment, maybe hiring someone to fix something, maybe going to look at something you want to buy, and you keep putting it off. I'll bet right now that you sitting there watching this have got 3 or 4 things in addition to getting in shape that you need to do that you've been putting off for the right time, the right month, the right time of the week, the right time of the year. That's nonsense. There's no wrong time. The best time is right now. Some of the best books I've ever read about athletes or people who've lost weight or people who've changed their lives have been someone who just got up and got to work. So if you're one of the people who's looking for the best time to start, just remember the best time to start is now. So the first thing you're doing is getting in your own way is you're waiting to go all in until a certain time. That time needs to be now. All right, so that's the first thing. The second thing is that you are straight up eating too much. All right, you're focusing on consuming a lot of healthy foods instead of considering how much you're eating kind of aggregate. Now, this was a conversation I got into with a client the other day. He started talking about these smoothies he started adding into his diet. And they have chia seeds in them, and they have protein in them, and they have nuts in them, and they have greens in them, and they have all this good stuff. But when he got done describing it, I was like, so cool, what have you taken out of your diet? He's like, nothing. I'm like, okay, so you've added in all these calories, you've added in all these things, and yeah, it's healthy foods, but overall it's still calories. I still gotta think about that, you know what I mean? So sometimes we think about too much addition when we're getting on a healthy path. I gotta start eating chicken, I gotta start eating fish, I gotta start eating quinoa, I gotta start eating almonds, but you don't think about taking the unhealthy foods out of your diet. You're doing too much addition by addition, so to speak, not addition by subtraction and taking out the unhealthy foods to get better, all right? You're adding things into your diet rather than taking away the stuff that you shouldn't be eating. That's the huge thing, and that's one of the biggest mistakes people make that gets in their own way. They start telling me all the good things they added in, and I'm like, okay, that's great. I'm glad you're eating healthy foods. What have you taken out of your diet? How have you made your diet more effective with taking bad foods away, not just adding good foods in? A cookie and a carrot can't go in your stomach together and cancel each other out. You gotta take the cookie out of there, okay? Or just don't put it in. Don't throw up a cookie. If you ate a cookie, just have a cookie and just don't eat a cookie later. I don't know, don't throw it up. You're overestimating the amount of calories that you need, or you're overestimating the amount of calories that you need on a daily basis. I always think about the brother in Nutty Professor, the Eddie Murphy version, when I think about this, when they're all sitting at the dinner table, and he's like, when you work out, you can eat whatever you want. He's eating just like all this food, and he's this huge fat guy. People misunderstand. When you need extra food because you're working out, you need a couple hundred extra calories. You don't need 3 extra meals, all right? So the second thing that you're doing to get in your own way is you are eating too much. So instead of thinking about adding in healthy foods to your diet, start thinking about taking unhealthy foods out. You know, make that a switch, not an addition, okay? Again, don't have a tremendously healthy dinner and then have dessert or have what I like to call a side dinner with it of something unhealthy, okay? Eat the healthy foods, get rid of the unhealthy foods. Don't just add more food, all right? Because at a point, even if you're adding chicken breasts and salmon and broccoli, at a point you're just adding calories. You have to start taking the unhealthy foods away, and that's something you could be doing that's getting in your own way. Moving on to the next thing, all right? You're not eating enough, okay? So, you're crash dieting. This is what people do before they go to the beach, before they go on vacation, before they have a wedding, before they have a high school reunion, before they have something that they want to look good for. They go on these crash diets. And they're effective in the short term, but remember, like we've talked about in previous kind of presentations, if we're not supporting our lean tissue, we're never going to be really effective in burning body fat. We're just going to be losing weight indiscriminately. And then when you gain weight back, you're not going to gain back that muscle tissue that you lost when you were crash dieting. You're going to gain back body fat. So every time you do that, you're going to be getting a little worse off. All right. So, and again, I want to elaborate on that point. So let's say that you go on a crash diet and you lose 10 pounds, okay? Let's say you lose 5 pounds of fat, 5 pounds of muscle. That's not terrible, okay? I think most people consider that kind of a win, all right? So let's say after that, you gain back 5 pounds. Okay, when you go off that crash diet, you're only gaining back the 5 pounds of fat. So if you lose 10, gain 5, lose 10, gain 5, all you're really losing in the long term is lean tissue. You're in fact adding body fat every time. So whereas in the end you may be much smaller, your body composition, your body fat percentage is still going to be really high because you've done nothing to keep that fat off and support lean tissue. You've just sacrificed lean tissue for the short-term goal of losing weight. All right, now, you're giving no consideration to your BMR. Remember this, your BMR, or your basal metabolic rate. Most people burn between 14 and 1,800 calories a day doing nothing, just at rest. So if your diet is like way too low, if your diet's only like 1,200, 1,300 calories a day, and you're burning 1,600 calories a day at rest, and then an additional 500 calories when you're working out, at a point that deficit is so big, your body's gonna go into starvation mode, it's gonna start eating up muscle tissue, which is gonna make it impossible for you to look good, to look lean. We need to look lean, we need muscle tissue to do that, all right? You include too many nothing foods. People who have diets like this are eating a ton of cucumbers or lettuce or grapes. They're making their whole diet up of these nonsense, no nutritional content foods that may be low calorie, but at the same time, not really giving us anything. You know, a lot of people survive on baby carrots for a while when they're crash dieting. That will turn you orange, by the way. That is not a fallacy. Carrots will turn you orange. I offered for a science professor once in college to do that for extra credit. She did not let me. I passed that class by the skin of my teeth. It would have helped me to turn myself orange for that. I digress, okay? Finally, you don't consume enough protein. Not just you're not eating enough, but you're not eating enough protein. We need to consume protein at every meal to support our lean mass. We need to protect our muscle tissue. Our muscle tissue is our reserve. It is our Fort Knox. We need to keep that stuff safe because that's what not only helps us function on the day-to-day basis, helps us get around, helps us prevent injury, but it also helps us look a certain way. All right, so it may be vain, but we need our muscle tissue to make us look a certain way, not just lose weight. So you not eating enough is one of the things that's getting in your own way. You need to remember that you burn 1,400 to 1,800 calories a day at rest. I encourage you to Google a BMR calculator and find out what that number is for you, and make sure that you're not going too far below that when you're dieting, because that's ultimately going to prevent you from the body that you want. Next is you ignore common sense nutrition principles, okay? Now, you rationalize bad foods to fit them into your diet. And we have a guy here eating a burrito because a lot of these build your own burrito places are my favorite places to witness this phenomenon, all right? People take a burrito and they pack it full. They say, oh, well, rice isn't really that bad for you, and beans are actually pretty good for you, and chicken's a nice lean protein source, and avocado is good for you, so we get some guacamole, and salsa is good for you, so we get all this other stuff. So they rationalize this food bit by bit, and in the end, they are handed an 1,800 calorie food pellet, right, which they then inhale, but they've justified it as not being that bad. People justify desserts, they justify snacks, they make all these things out to be not as bad as they really are, but you're ignoring common sense nutrition principles, right? You fail to realize that overall, the nutritional content of what you are eating isn't in line with your goals. You need to consider those things and make sure that you're eating foods that are in line with your nutritional principles and that you're not trying to get into your diet, all right? Don't make your own nutrition rules because your body doesn't know those. Your body knows science. Your body knows what it can digest well, knows what it can't digest well. It knows how to burn fat with food, and knows how to gain fat from food. Your rationalization of why you need to eat a bag of Swedish fish every day does not mean that your body is going to follow that rule and keep kind of gaining progress. So remember, you can't negotiate with your body. Your body only knows how to do certain things. So when you feed it the right foods, it's going to burn fat, it's going to gain muscle. When you feed it the wrong foods, it's not going to do those things, all right? So we can either move towards our goal and eat the right things, or move away from our goal and talk ourselves into eating the foods that we know we shouldn't be eating. Because when you break apart, a piece like, Bill Cosby had a joke about when you break down a cake. What is a cake? It's eggs and it's wheat and it's milk, and all those things are great, but you put them together and it makes a cake, and a cake's not a great thing. So we can kind of put this old Bill Cosby joke into action here, and remember that we can't ignore common sense nutrition principles. They're there for a reason. What works for a reason. We can't rationalize and we can't talk our way out of that, okay? Now, the fifth reason you haven't gotten to your goal yet is that you don't have enough muscle. Okay? So remember, leaning out and looking lean requires a muscular base. If all I'm doing is indiscriminately losing weight, I'm losing muscle tissue the same rate I'm losing fatty tissue. Okay? So I'm never gonna get the look that I want. Too much cardio and a lack of resistance training means that I'm just gonna whittle myself down to the small, skinny person, but I'm not gonna lose specifically body fat. Remember, I wanna lose the fat on top of my muscles. That's what makes me look lean. That's what gives women that really nice shoulder into arm look, or those toned legs. It's not being skinny, it's being lean. That's what gives guys that really muscular look. It's not just losing weight, it's supporting a lean muscle base and then burning the body fat on top of it. So if you're one of these people who, in an effort to lean out, is doing 2 hours a day of cardio, 3 hours a day of cardio in 3 different sessions, just remember that if you're doing all of that cardio and you're not doing the resistance training and the nutrition to support your muscle tissue, you will never get that look, because while your fat level is coming down, your muscle size underneath it is also retreating, so you're keeping that same look. You're turning from a big fat person to a smaller fat person. We want to turn from a fatty person to a lean person. I wasn't calling you fat. So we're going to keep going, and that's one of the reasons that you're not at your goals yet. Number 6 is you overtrain and you underrest. Now, this reason, number 6, is huge because a lot of people are doing this without realizing it, all right? So resistance training breaks down muscle tissue at the fibril level. We went over muscle tissue contractions a little bit in the pre and post workout nutrition seminar. I encourage you to watch that one too, because there's a lot of good information in there. But I create these little tiny tears. I create this little microscopic damage, all right? Now, that needs time to repair itself and to grow thicker and to grow stronger. That's how muscles get bigger. That's how muscles hypertrophy or thicken. They do that through repairing themselves. So if all you're doing is breaking yourself down and breaking yourself down and breaking yourself down, you're not giving yourself any time to repair those tissues to grow that muscular base, all right? So from training too hard or too much or too often, or not sleeping enough, not resting enough, not taking enough time off of the gym. Just remember, if you are going to resistance train or train intensely, you pretty much need 24 hours in between those workouts. If you're doing bench presses and squats every single day, at a point, you're going to see a decrease on your return, right? Because your body's never repairing itself in order to get stronger. So if your muscles don't have the look that you want them to, if you're not getting stronger, if you're getting weaker, all right, that's really one of the big indicators. If you are getting weaker as you work out, you are overtraining or you're under resting. You need to take a couple days, get some sleep, let yourself repair, and then get back in the gym. Remember, 24 hours in between workouts if you're doing the same muscle group. Don't do chest and tries and then do chest and tries again on Tuesday. If you did it on Monday, give yourself some time, right? If you're doing a boot camp or a metabolic training activity, make sure that you are doing those with 24 hours in between and that you are eating afterwards. That's the best way to not overtrain. So next, you cheat too much, okay? Obviously, knowing me, of course I have a picture of The Rock in my presentation because he's my hero, all right? Your cheat meals are too frequent. Some people go on and they diet all day and they have one sweet thing every day, all right? Maybe they go for a couple days, every third day they have a cheat meal. Or maybe it's just once a week. But the problem is that if you're cheating too much, you're not really giving yourself a chance to get the results that you want. You're not giving your diet a chance to take hold, especially if you are employing a low carb dieting strategy. If every 2 days you're eating an enormous bag of Tostitos with salsa, you're just carbing up again every 2 days. So you're not giving your body a real chance to become, to enter kind of a ketosis state and burn a lot of body fat, which is what makes low carb diets effective. You're eating too much, you're eating cheat meals too much, and you're not giving your body enough time. Next thing is your cheat meals are regularly scheduled. Look, it's great to have a cheat meal on Sunday, but why schedule a cheat meal when you could maybe go 2 weeks without having one? The longer you can go in between your cheat meals, generally the better you're gonna do and the more results you're gonna have. Now, that being said, you need one every once in a while. I like to have one every 7 to 10 days, but I try not to schedule it regularly because I know maybe I get to Sunday, maybe I just don't feel like having a cheat meal. The last thing I wanna do is force myself to eat junk food because then I'm not gonna enjoy it. It's gonna make me feel bad and I'll have wasted my cheat meal at a time when I didn't want it. Whereas maybe I could have made it a whole nother week, and then the next weekend I was going out to dinner with my wife and I really wanted to splurge, you know, I could have saved that cheat meal for a time where I was really going to have appreciated it. The other thing is, maybe your cheat meals are too big. All right, a cheat meal really needs to be a meal, just that. Keep it to an hour. You know, you can feed yourself continuously for an hour for a cheat meal, but try to keep it to that because too often cheat meals turn into cheat days and then turn into cheat weekends and then turn into cheat weeks because once we start eating that kind of crap, all those transmitters in our brain start firing and they start wanting all that food. And so we're very likely at that point to have that snowball into going out of control. So again, try not to cheat so much. I know it seems like common sense, but some people lose that. They think like every 3-4 days I'm gonna treat myself. Try not to. Hold out as long as you can. Have cheat meals when you feel like your body's breaking down, you're tired, you're just losing your sanity. Give yourself some time because you might be surprised as to how long you can go without having to take a cheat meal like that, all right? Number 8. And this is another one of the biggest problems that people have when they're trying to accomplish something in the gym, is that you change your plan too much, okay? You read a cool new idea and you implement it right away. You're like, oh man, that's great. I gotta throw that in the plan. And then maybe you listen to too many sources. Obviously, you can't spit in the supermarket like magazine aisle and not hit a fitness magazine that on the cover has like, this is the secret, this is the key, this is what you need to do, this is how celebrities do it, you know what I mean? You try too many things at once, you throw too many things in your program, and you're doing 8 different things from 7 different people, you're obviously not gonna have the kind of results that you wanna have because it's too much information. I always talk about Bear Grylls. He's a survival expert on television. He always says, have a plan. It doesn't need to be the best plan, but if you have a plan, you're eventually gonna come out on the other side. If you're lost in the woods, head east. If you're not finding results east, keep heading east. The longer you keep heading east, the better you are gonna be, because if you're constantly changing your plan, you're gonna be moving all over the place and you're never gonna find a way out of trouble. This is the exact same principle applied. if you're always changing your plan, you're low carb one week, you're paleo another week, you're vegetarian another week, you're vegan another week, you're never giving any plan enough time to really be effective. So find a plan, get confidence in your plan, and then stick to it. I recommend 4 to 6 weeks for any plan that you're implementing, because that's how you're really gonna be able to tell if it's good for you or not. All right, and that's exactly what we're gonna go into next, is that you don't give things time. That's the 9th thing that you're potentially doing wrong or that's keeping you from your results. All right, you have to give your diets time, but you get impatient and you're looking for results. So 2 weeks in, you're not getting the results that you want, you decide to shake things up. You gotta think about the timeline for your gain. All right, think about how long it took you to gain the weight that you're trying to lose, or to gain the body fat that you're trying to lose. It took you more than a week, which means that a week on your plan without losing it isn't really catastrophic. If it took you 10 years to gain this kind of weight, you're not gonna lose it in a month. It's gonna take some time. But if you're not giving yourself enough time, you're ultimately creating a ton of frustration for yourself without really giving your body the appropriate amount of time that it needs to do that. And then finally, number 10, and this is a really big one, is that you don't honestly self-assess, okay? A lot of times with my clients, I see people make tremendous progress, and I mean tremendous progress, but they're just too tough on themselves. They say, man, I want to tone up my arms. So we work on the arms, we're getting great arms. They say, yeah, but now my legs look my legs look like crap. They look like crap. I stalled out, excuse me. All right, they look terrible. They're changing their things, they're too tough on themselves, they're moving their goals around too much. You need to take honest self-assessment of where you are. It's unreasonable to assume that you're gonna walk around looking like a fitness magazine cover model 365 days a year. That is not an honest, real goal for yourself. So you need to think, am I better than I was yesterday? Am I better than I was last week? Am I better than I was a month ago? You need to start giving yourself a break. All right. The other thing is that you're potentially not consistent in how you're assessing those goals. Maybe you go to the mirror and then you go to the scale, and then you go to the mirror and then you go to the scale, and then you get your body comp tested. You're giving yourself more and more hurdles to jump over to make yourself happy. Remember, if you're just doing this for how you're going to look in the end, if you don't get to exactly where you want to be, you're going to be disappointed. But if you can enjoy the journey of getting in shape and the journey of eating well and changing your life in that capacity, you're gonna feel like a winner the entire time. So stop giving yourself such a hard time when you're looking in the mirror. Stop giving yourself all this crap and being so critical about your body and your results, because you're doing it. If you're working as hard as you can and you're doing all this other stuff right, then give yourself a break and know that given time and given consistency, those results are gonna come. But you have to honestly self-assess where you started from, where you are, and how far you have to go when you're doing that. All right, so the simple keys to success out of this. Number 1 is you gotta keep nutrition simple and healthy. Stick to the healthy foods, stick to the times you're supposed to eat, stick to the foods you know you're supposed to be eating. One thing I like to do when I feel like I need to recalibrate is I limit my diet to 15 foods. I only let myself eat 15 foods. So maybe it's 5 different proteins, 5 different fruits and vegetables, and 5 different fats or carb sources, all right? And I keep it to that list for a little period of time. That allows me to keep things really simple, not overthink it, not get too crazy with my recipes, keeps things really bare bones, all right? Next is remembering that my workouts need to be intense and short. There are plenty of times, I've done it a million times, when I've walked in the gym and ended up just dogging it through a workout. I had something planned, but I got in there and maybe my motivation just fell through the floor and I didn't feel like doing it anymore. I walked out knowing that I missed that workout. You need to make sure that your workouts are intense and short. You should be sweaty, you should be out of breath, your muscles should be tired. That is a simple key, all right? Don't overthink your eating. Don't overthink it. Remember, you have these food lists, you have these resources, you have these schedules. Don't get too fancy with it. Don't think about adding all this other stuff in. Don't read an article about a shake or an article about a food or an article about a superfood and try to start throwing it in. The simpler you keep your nutrition, the better it is. And then you have to find a plan and stick to it. Maybe it's me, maybe it's somebody else, but find a plan and just give it time, give it dedication, and give it consistency. All right, last but not least, don't be your worst critic. Give yourself a break. You're working hard and you're getting the results that you're putting in the effort for. If you need to step it up, step it up. But if you're working as hard as you can and you're eating as clean as you know how, then give it time. Don't be your worst critic. There are enough people in life that are going to give you a hard time. You don't need to be one of them. All right, so these are some things that you could be doing to get out of your own way. And these are some simple keys to success for you. I wish you luck because I want it for you. You deserve it. We'll see you next time.